everyone, welcome back to another commentary. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric, what are we doing today?
We're doing the pilot for Lois and Clark.
This is a thing that we intended to do like 3 years ago.
You know when I first got here?
Yeah.
Because we were both in Superman plays. We started at Superman Origins retrospective.
We sure
kind
did.
of finished.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. You know, we're half-assing things a little bit.
Yeah.
But we, and that's not even, well, I don't know what order these things are coming up in, but as of this recording...
We did American Alien.
I haven't posted American Alien yet. But yeah, so we did the pilot for Birds of Prey shortly after you got here. And
we always intended... We never...
intended on doing this.
I think we always end up not doing this because it's a full 2-hour pilot as opposed to... Like, I think we always just like, well, we might as well just do a movie.
That's right.
I think we just kept being like, well, it's a full 2-part pilot.
No, we'd be like, we can do this or we can do Bible Man. You know, and then we do Bible Man.
Yeah, which is also shorter because those 40 minutes.
Those are short, yeah, exactly. Which is the reason that I don't actually have to do a rewind on them. But someday I might do an overview, although I don't want to have to watch all of them.
You just pick like a chunk.
Like in a row. Sounds awful. But anyway, this is finally happening now because it was recommended by David Crabtree. And this is David's, like, favorite show.
And I am...
Certainly his favorite Superman show, but I get the sense that it's one of his favorite shows of all time, and was not surprised when he asked us to do this. But I was excited because we were gonna, and finally we get to do it. So I've been wanting to watch this with you forever. I am trepidatious.
Yeah. It has been probably at least 5 years since I've watched this. In 5 years, a lot of things can change, as we learned with Birds of Prey 3 years ago.
That's true, but I will say...
imagine how much worse the Birds of Prey pilot is now.
Yeah, let's not do that again. But I mean, someday I'll do a rewind on that show.
Well, it actually might look better after all the CW shows.
That's true. That's a good point.
Although those tend to have alright pilots.
No, that's true. You know,
pilot's a pilot. It probably loses
consistently
to
the pilots
to Arrow and
Flash, especially. Flash has a wonderful pilot, yeah, and Supergirl's pilot is pretty strong too. But Legends not so much.
Did not watch that.
Yeah, but anyway, so what was I going to say? Oh no, I actually have watched this somewhat recently, and I will say it does hold up for me better than Birds of Prey did. Okay,
I assume it will. We'll talk about it as it starts going because it's 2 hours or whatever. But
it's an hour and a half.
But like I guess 2 hours with commercials.
Right.
But I have a lot of fun memories of this show. It's a big deal for me.
Well, let's see if we have enough to say to fill an hour and a half with this. I'm sure we will.
It's my favorite Superman, I think.
Still, interesting.
Well, I haven't gone back to it.
Yeah.
I'm going off nostalgia.
I can't put him above Christopher Reeve. I just don't know how to do that. And I also think it's even a little bit difficult to put him above George Reeves, but I do like him a lot. He's probably third for me, honestly. And Cavill could have beaten someone out if only he was
Cavill could have been the best. Yeah. I think this, unfortunately, not unfortunate, that's mean. But I'm going to say, unfortunately, this unfortunately has the best Lois Lane.
I was going to say, this does remain my favorite Lois Lane.
Because she didn't get to do anything in Man of Steel and BVS. She would have been the best.
She should be hands down and like maybe a couple of rungs even above.
And like, I like Terry Hatcher, but like, is Amy Adams?
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams was like, with nothing, she was spinning gold. Like, she should be the best Lois Lane.
When I did the rewind for Man of Steel, I kept trying to write a section about her, and there just wasn't enough there to even talk about her. Like, if you go back to that review, I hardly mentioned her because there just wasn't a lot to say. And then, like, right at the end, I'm like,
and Lois Lane is in this movie.
And like, I want this to be my favorite Lois Lane, but yeah, exactly. But no, Terry Hatcher does remain my favorite.
This is much closer to my conception of Superman.
Yeah.
Which is why it edges out something like Christopher Reeves, because...
Well, your big thing is origin before he knows anything about Krypton.
Well, not just that, but... Because that would apply to the pilot, and this pilot is taking from John Byrne. But, like, I grew up in the John Byrne era of Superman, not while John Byrne was writing it, obviously. But, like, my conception of Clark Kent and Superman are that they are very similar people. Clark Kent is a good reporter.
So you like that Dean Cain plays them identical?
Yes.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I mean,
some people...
Maybe not identical, but, like, my conception of Clark Kent is... I don't like the fumbling, bumbling Clark Kent.
Because a lot of people criticize it for that Dean Cain's not even trying to do different things with it.
I mean, I will have to rewatch it, but... Yeah. I don't mind a little bit of modulation, but, like, I don't like fumbling, bumbling... In BVS, Cavill is more like that as well. Where like he's a competent reporter. I'm not saying I have a problem with it in Superman the Motion Picture, but like I hated it when Jeff Johns brought that back in the late 2000s. Like,
I also think it's harder to do in comics than it is in a good live performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's interesting about Christopher Reeve is it becomes an identity thing, where it gets to a point where it's like, if he's not wearing the costume, is he putting on an act, or is he kind of turned into this?
Well,
and that's what I always liked about it.
And my Superman is the same as my Batman, where like Superman has a performance, Clark Kent has a performance, and there's like a real guy that hangs out with Mom and Pa Kent. But like,
yes. Yeah.
I like Superman and Clark Kent to not be so dissimilar.
Yeah.
I like Clark Kent being a good guy that people can respect.
Yeah, I think both things are valid, and I never minded it in the show.
Yeah, no, this is just personal
And it
preference.
does feel deliberate. It doesn't feel like bad acting or anything.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we'll see.
Let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to watch it with us, and we definitely suggest that you do so, get out your DVDs if you have those, or at least at the moment, it's on still DC Universe, and that's how we're going to be watching it. And get it past all the menus and everything, get it to timestamp 0, and get ready to press play when I say now. Here we go, Eric. We're going to watch the pilot of Lois and Clark. Everybody please press play right now.
This is the lesser Jimmy Olsen of this series.
Yeah, but you know what? He's better than I remembered him, and I think if he'd kept going, he would have been, just fine.
I do think this is a really classy opening.
It is.
I do think that definitive Jimmy Olsen is Superman Returns.
I like doing this instead of. Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Oh, I love him. Yeah,
Interesting.
I think he's perfect casting. I think he's great.
What I like about this, as an alternative to what we usually do with TV pilots, is you don't just jump straight in. You actually have an intro, but you don't.
You don't do the show intro that shows clips.
Yeah, and so you don't tell us everything before the show starts.
Mm-hmm. And John Shea.
We don't lose anything. And I love John Shea. I think he's genius casting.
I do too.
In fact, this whole cast is good, and this is my definitively favorite Perry White. But once again, Man of Steel Perry White could have edged it out.
He could have been the best.
Yes, and he's close.
No one cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman. I mentioned this Clark Kent taking on the Batman.
Oh, absolutely. I would be interested to see what Batman is like in this universe. This show is very strange.
It's Michael Keaton, right? Well, it's not Michael Keaton. It's Forever.
Oh, sure.
Like, that's the Batman that exists in
Kilmer
this
would have been good.
universe.
Yeah. But yeah, this show is weird because it's odd how much in places you can really take it seriously, and in other places it's so cornball, and it's such a product of its time, right?
Yes. Which is part of the charm of it. Like, this looks like a set in a way I have not seen in 20 years.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't mean it looks bad, but it looks like a set.
And of course, you're right on the cusp where you can still do a show about a big newspaper that's actually doing well.
Well, but my big complaint with this show is that Superman works in a news office so that he can always know, like, the second news happens, but so often they're standing around watching news television.
Yeah, and they're getting their news from TV, and they're a newspaper.
It's a very attractive man.
That's kind of a fun way to introduce your Lois Lane.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, I don't think that they're fooling anybody that that's actually a man, but
Well,
you don't know
think
that
they're
it's Lois
supposed to be
Lane.
full,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And so that's kind of nice.
I like action reporter Lois Lane.
I do too. And that's the take that's so great with this, because they intelligently go, okay, it's going to be kind of an action show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a romance show, but it's also an action show.
But do you think, because it's been a while since I've gone back to the show, because I rewatched season 1.
I don't think it's a straight up soap opera, but there are episodes where it's certainly later where it feels more like a soap opera.
Do you think this sometimes feels a little bit like the first live action Tick show? Where, like, well, we can't show action, so, like, action happened.
That's true. There is a lot of that, but I guess it's not like a superhero action show, but it's an action show in the sense that in like a procedural crime show, cop show.
No, I think the smart thing about this show for this time, why I think the show is successful.
So she's proactive enough that we buy that she'll like put herself in danger all the time so she can get kidnapped a lot, because that has to happen.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting about this show, or what made the show successful when it came out, is that it is a show for the whole family. Like, it's kind of a soap opera romance.
Sorry, that's a great line.
Show for like the moms, and it's kind of a crime action show for the dads, and like it's a superhero show for the kids, and like like speaking in very specific, like very general terms, but like
yeah, they're hitting all the demographics.
This is I think like as much a romance novel television show as it is a comic book superhero television show. That was kind of the pitch.
Yeah.
Was like, it's Superman, but through the eyes of the relationship of Lois and Clark, which is why it's called Lois and Clark.
And it's very interesting that, that around the time this comes out, you might have expected an attempt at a darker Superman show, considering what we did with Flash, considering that we're still not that far off from 89, and everything's trying to do Batman 89.
This show doesn't know X-Files is on TV yet.
That's true. And it doesn't take itself too seriously, which helps it a lot, but it also...
Who could that be?
But it also leads it to that really cornball thing. Dean Cain's got that longer hair, which you kind of identify with Death of Superman.
And I like longer-haired Superman.
I do too. My wife hates it. She's wrong. I think,
we grew up
I
with
think he's
it.
great. That's true. That's true.
And I grew up
she
with
didn't.
this.
But importantly, and I'll just get this out of the way right away, this, of course, it starts just before Death of Superman happens. And the reason Death of Superman... doesn't happen without this show. That's right. Because originally they wanted to marry off Superman. That was going to be the big event. And they weren't allowed to do it because the show was eventually going to get there. Mm-hmm. And, they didn't want that kind of synergy, I guess.
And this show is looking a lot at that era of Superman. Like, this is, in some ways, an adaptation of the John Byrne era of Superman.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And because of that, we don't have a too powerful Superman.
Yep.
And we don't get bogged down with the mythology right away.
Yep.
And this is also the start of the Krypton embargo, or what I think of as the Krypton embargo, where the last son of Krypton idea, where we'll get to that stuff, we'll do some of it, but you're not going to have Kryptonians on Earth.
This show gets a lot of that in the last season.
We'll eventually get there, yeah. But the animated series wasn't allowed to do it. Because DC kind of at large was saying, like, last son of Krypton, that's what we want right now.
Mm-hmm. And I mostly support that.
Yeah.
I think Supergirl could be an exception. I think Matrix Supergirl was an unfortunate, like, workaround. Where, like, no, there can be Supergirl too. Just don't bring the whole family.
Yeah, just draw the line there, and don't have so many of Superman's opponents being people from his planet that show up and automatically know how to use their powers better than he does. Mm-hmm. Why do we do that all the time? I kind of wish Smallville had been made during what I call the Krypton embargo, because...
Well, and...
It would have been subtler.
And...
would have had to have.
And
also, that show might have also benefited from not knowing X-Files was on the air.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, that's shooting in the same place as X-Files.
It's using the same composer.
And I think some of the same,
you know about that?
Like, behind the scenes
Jon Snow. Oh, yeah. A lot of, like half,
some of the directors and stuff.
Yeah, half of that staff is X-Files staff. That's why I made that joke. And jokes are always funnier when you explain them.
This is... I can't remember her name now.
That's Cat Grant.
Cat Grant. That's Cat Grant. As she was conceived by John Byrne.
Yeah, and those of you that are used to Cat Grant just in Supergirl, of course, she is a completely different take.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty sure John Byrne creates her.
Okay.
I don't think she exists before the Man of Steel miniseries.
And you're right, like, the way she dresses in this is exactly what the kind of stuff she wears in the
Jimmy Olsen should not be taller than Lois Lane. That is a mistake.
That's a good point. Yeah, he's maybe sort of miscast, but I think he does a good job.
I mean, the reason they got rid of him was ridiculous.
I don't remember.
They said he looked too much like Dean Cain. That is the reason he gets fired. That's the given reason.
Now that you
we
say
never
that,
know what's really happening
I can
behind
kind of
closed
see
doors.
But you'd think they would have come to that before they started filming.
Yeah, and a season in, they'd be like, "Well, we're stuck with it."
So, I'm going to give them that it's a TV show, and they're not going to be able to have a big globe on top of the building.
Well, I've always liked that globe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and in the transitional era where, like, newspapers are dying, like, this is the beginning of it, I'm fine with buying that, like, it's not the 40s. It's a little subtler.
I think the show does a good job of being a family thing, and, like, relatively wholesome, but also within the context of it, kind of depicting the world sort of like the Christopher Reeve movies did as being more cynical than what Clark is used to, and he's going to come in and make it and brighten it up.
That's not where I thought you were going to go with that sentiment.
What?
I thought you were going to say like this show's like a family show and like is for everybody, but is also, as far as they can go within those confines, the sexy Superman show.
Oh, well, it does that too, absolutely. Sure.
Because like, I don't remember if it's before the show comes out.
But the promo's much more
Yes, that's
so.
what I was going to say. I don't know if it's before the show comes out or if it's while the show is going on, but like, there are some scandalous
It's
photos.
as exploitative as it can be, and they don't... And, like, it looks like... If you never watched the show, you would think it is As the World Turns with Superman characters. Because that's how it's advertised. But I think that was also kind of genius, because I think, like, the moms that watched this show, that's how they saw it. You know, like you were talking earlier. So when you were talking about how it's hitting all those different demographics, do you think that, just with what you remember of the show, do you think that it blends all those things decently well, or...
I think it can lean too far into the romance stuff or too far into the comedy stuff. I don't think it ever leans far enough into the actual action superhero stuff.
Yeah, the actual comic book
but
stuff.
But Kid Me did not care. This show is huge for me as a kid.
Me too.
I watch this every week on Sunday, and what's strange is, when does the show end? 94? 95?
95 or 96, right? Yeah, because it was on 4 years.
Yeah, so when does it start?
But I can't remember if it's 91 or 92.
Okay.
I think it's 92.
Okay. But like, I have vivid memories of watching this show every Sunday when I was a kid, which means I'm like 3 or 4. Which is not like earlier than most people have memories, but like that's really early to have memories specifically of watching. But I remember the frog reveal from when I'm like a 4-year-old child.
Yeah.
I remember like a scene where the Kryptonians come down and they have like a bunch of women and they're like, choose a wife. And,
yes.
And Lois is there. Like, these are things I remember from being like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it maybe doesn't lean enough into the comic book stuff, but it will go big. Mm-hmm. It won't show a lot of big action and stuff, but the stakes will be large. Mm-hmm. And
their Metallo is really disappointing.
I don't remember their Metallo at all.
That's that. Of course you don't.
I remember their Mixoplex.
He's a guy.
I love their Mixoplex.
I don't remember their Mixoplex.
Because it's Howie Mandel, and he's great.
Oh, that's right.
The Christmas
that
episode. Yeah.
I have seen that. Now you say that.
I don't know if it holds up. I haven't gone back and watched it, but I remember loving it when I was a kid. But yeah, this was big for me too. And the thing is, like, it cuts some of those corners, and of course, they had major budget problems with the show all the way through. Sure they were constantly in fear of cancellation. What was this, TBS? I mean, like, it was a small network.
Is it?
I thought it was
NBC or CBS.
I thought it was TBS, or was it just re-aired on TBS?
It was re-aired on TBS.
Is that what it was?
Yes. Because I don't have cable when I'm a kid, so like it has to air.
I'll look it up. I thought it was syndicated like Star Trek.
I don't think so.
But I'll check.
I thought it was a major network. I thought it was NBC or CBS, or it's not Fox.
Yeah, it was but it was constantly on the verge of cancellation.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's not a bad effect.
No, it looks all right. It looks okay now.
Yeah.
You've seen stuff on the CW recently that doesn't look that good.
Yeah. But it's not The Expanse.
well, specifically the gravity effects.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, it always had to cut some of those corners, but it always, when I was a kid at least, felt big enough.
This is the most realistic apartment for someone just moved to the big city I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, this is on par with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
With that really horrible dinky apartment.
Yeah.
Rent. But yeah, that's what
it's good too.
That's what I say to Eric at the beginning of every month.
Did they have to build that set again, but sideways? Is that how we did this?
I mean, I'm sure they didn't put that room on a gimbal and just like flip it. So maybe so. I'm not totally sure how they achieved
that.
Like,
I know how they shot it, but like
it's
a lot of work just for that one shot.
Yeah.
Like, they could have just built it sideways.
It's a good gag.
But that's a seamless cut.
Yeah. I know. I've never understood how they did that.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yep. It's great. But anyway, what I was going to say is, it's colorful. The suit looks good.
The suit looks good. Some of the suits we're going to see in a little bit do not look great.
That's true. Well, yeah, but that's on purpose. And we have redone that scene 5,000 times since this, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
I also, because he was talking to them on the phone, second best Mom Pa Kent, but probably best of the traditional take on Mom Pa Kent.
Absolutely, yeah. But the Smallville Kents, you'll never beat them.
No, but they are the younger, hippier...
Hipper? They're certainly not hippie-ish, because...
No.
They're not Ultimate Spider-Man Aunt May or anything.
No, but
ABC, you're right.
Okay, I thought so.
I don't know why I remembered it as being on TBS, but like I said, maybe it was just re-aired there or something. But yeah, I thought maybe like it was a weird syndicated thing where it was like on TBS but not owned by them. That's why I said that. But anyway, I was wrong. So her sister strikes me as a character that they just didn't really know what to do with. Like, she's in the pilot, and I think she's in some more episodes for a season, and she might show up here and there later too. But like, it's been a while since I watched the show all the way through. But I get the sense that she's a character that was intended to be around more.
Well, and this is a big divergence from the John Byrne stuff where she's blind and Bizarro gives her sight back.
As a kid, I didn't even know this was a comic book character. Like, I thought they made her up, and I think a lot of people, until, the last 15, 20 years where we've been using that character more, didn't even know that she was a character.
Yeah, I don't know when she starts. Like, that could also be a John Byrne invention. I'm not sure.
Lucy shows up in Smallville, and it's kind of lame and not great, but yeah, you see why I have such a love-hate relationship with Smallville, because some of the best versions of Superman characters are in that show.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
No, absolutely.
And beat out some of the characters in this that I liked. But this had some of the top characters for the longest time. We still haven't gotten a better Lois Lane.
No, we should.
Almost.
Have.
We almost did. Should have. It should have happened. And again, this Lex is in the top 5, top 3.
Is he a vampire?
Maybe so.
This is also not the interpretation of Lois you get away with now, I don't think.
Probably not. What I really like about it is that she is presented as sometimes like kind of pathetic, and she's stuck up, and Clark comes right out, and I think in the pilot is where it happens, and calls her on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not supposed to think that her flaws are endearing. She has actual flaws, and she needs him to fill in some of the gaps. She's not great on her own, and thinks she is, but it's not like, I need a man, it's just, she is...
Everybody needs somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she is a really independent woman. It's not like when she gets into those situations where she has to be rescued, it's because she's a damsel. It's because
she's not Superman.
Yeah, it's because she's impulsive, and she gets herself into trouble, and she does stuff she shouldn't do. But like you said, it's
but that's also why she's good at her job.
Exactly, but it's just everybody, like you said, needs somebody. But this character in particular, she overcompensates. She lays it on too thick.
I also think the writers lay it on too thick sometimes. She can come across as too scatterbrained and like to the point where you're like, can she get dressed in the morning? Like, can she get to work?
That's hilarious.
Not always, but sometimes. That's not bad effect. I actually missed the red. We don't do that much anymore. The actual red heat vision, we tend to do the heat vision that I think we pioneer in Smallville.
Smallville started it.
But I think we've kept with that. Do we do red in BVS and Man of Steel, or is it the heat vision?
It's red in that, but that's because they want to do the scary red eye thing.
I know they do scary red eyes, but I couldn't remember if it actually shoots red.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay.
I forget.
I like the red.
I do too.
I also miss effects like that, where like I don't know what that technically is. Like I think it's just animation, like drawn onto the cell.
Like I'm a broken record. Like with so many things with Superman, I think a lot of different interpretations of that are valid. I like that one because it's like a laser pointer. Mm-hmm. It's like it's laser eyes, as opposed to just heat from the eyes.
I have I tend to go in cycles of just like I don't like whatever's being used right now because it tends to be overused. Where I'm like, I just want variety. Like, if all we were getting was the red, I'd be like, well, why don't we go back to that Smallville idea? Smallville had a good take on it.
I've heard people say the same thing with the way Smallville pioneered the flying, where it's like, why does he have to take off? Why can't he just go in the air?
Mm-hmm.
Why does he have to create a sonic boom every time?
His glasses are interesting. In that they are not the typical Clark Kent glasses. They're not like mine.
They're 90s glasses. I mean, we're trying to contemporize all of this. And without getting, too far away from what Superman is supposed to be about. And
that's a 90s shot.
Yes, it is. And we do this a lot, where we'll do the speed up footage.
And the film quality looks bad. Is that because it's sped up?
I'm not sure. The lighting is weird.
It looks like a soap opera in this shot. But like a soap opera, like after
it's
you've
because
recorded
there's like
on
backlighting and
VHS.
stuff.
It's like overexposed.
In the context of this, I think it does a good enough job of making us buy that Clark actually gets this job. Mm-hmm. I like the way he does that. I like that this show is, and it does a really good job of saying up front what kind of show it is. That it's gonna take its time and it's gonna have downtime.
I also like that this Clark Kent it's like in his writing is a little flowery and a little sappy.
Yeah. And it's sappier than they want us to think it is, probably.
Yes.
But it's like bringing the hometown, like small Midwestern thing to the big city, and that's an article that only someone like him would even think to write, and that's kind of why he gets that job. Now, you could argue he's not going to get that job writing a fluff piece, but the reason he gets it, and I also like that, I don't think that Perry White is acting like it's a perfect article, but he's like, what, the man shows initiative, and he went off and investigated something.
And it's written well.
Yeah. And again, he's bringing like a charm and a heart to it, and something personal to it. Let me say this: this did not need to be a 2-hour pilot.
I don't think it did
so
either.
I like that it does have the downtime that it has, and I like that we put the Lois and Clark in front of the Superman, right? Mm-hmm. And it comes right out and tells you that, like you said, I really like the comparison to the Patrick Warburton Tick series. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be the time in between the panels to some degree. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have some Superman, but
this tries more than, say, like the 70s Incredible Hulk, where like we never get that stuff. I mean, when the Hulk shows up, but like he's never, like, they didn't even attempt like
that happened because that guy the guy that made that show didn't like superheroes. This doesn't have that problem.
But the Spider-Man show had that too, to some degree.
That was because of budgetary constraints and stuff. This, I think, does like superheroes.
Yes, and they just don't have the budget. I wish they tried a little bit more, but again, budget.
The You Like to Be on Top line is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's fun. I think it was... I just had this thought. I think it might have been marketing genius to put the Lois in front of the Clark.
You think so?
I think so. Because that encapsulates their attempt at bringing in an audience that generally would not care about a show like this. The
Superman people are going to be here, whatever we call it.
By doing that, and then by in the pilot putting this relationship front and center, and waiting so long before we even get him in the Superman suit.
And we open with Lois. We see Lois before we see Clark.
Yeah, we're saying that she is not a supporting character.
Yeah,
they are dual protagonists, and putting her in front is not saying it's for women before it's saying men. It's saying she matters as much as he does.
Yeah,
and because she never has before, you have to do. It's a good idea to do that.
Is this the first time we do Lois and Clark? Which is obviously Which is obviously a takeoff on Lois and Clark.
Or if it's not, when I was a kid and I heard that in school, it blew my mind. I was like, oh, these Lois and Clark people.
Yeah.
I was just watching Lois and Clark last night.
We have
nothing in common,
which also might be why we just put the Lois first, because we're already familiar with it. But
yeah,
if this is the first time
it just sounds good.
Yeah. And if this is the first time that we phrase it like that, it is how we've kept it from then on.
Yeah. We do keep doing that.
We had that miniseries at the end of New 52, Lois and Clark, and...
It's also just fair to her because she's the senior reporter. I mean, if it's going to be a reporting show.
Mm-hmm. I also like, because later we're going to see her in like a dress, and it's going to be very like va-va-voom. I like that we're not... you
gotta say it like Adam West. If you're gonna say it, you gotta say it like Adam West.
But I like that we're not doing that thing that we do typically do, and especially in this era, where it's like, yeah, she's a reporter, but she's a sexy reporter.
Yeah.
Like, she just dresses like a person. Like, she's obviously an attractive woman, but, like, we're not feeling the need to overemphasize it with every outfit, even when she's at home.
It goes without saying that people that have never watched this before, younger than us, would go back to this and not say that it looks like an especially progressive show for today's sensibilities. Mm-hmm. It absolutely was in 1993, whenever it came out.
Absolutely.
And obviously, the Christopher Reeve movie was doing that as well. Yeah, but the comics had a bunch of people that look like this guy, right?
Eccentrically homeless.
He's not that far away from Bibbo. Like,
Bibbo's not dressed like that. That man has like a scarf and like a.
It was 93, yeah, 93, 97.
Okay, so when the last 2 seasons are airing on 5 and 6.
And that makes sense because the Wedding album is like 97 or 98. They did it immediately after. Like,
I had that issue. I read that a couple times.
I like it a lot.
I do too.
It's rare to say this. I like that issue because nothing happens in it.
Yeah. No, it's just all fun characters.
They call it the Wedding album, and it really is that. And
yeah.
But with panels and people talking.
And maybe one of the only times that there is a wedding where supervillains or something does not show up to disrupt the wedding.
And I think part of the reason they did that was to get as far away from this as they could, because this show has the constant false start weddings. They do it 3 times, I think.
I thought it was just the once.
It's at least twice.
Okay.
It keeps happening.
Well, I think there's a false start wedding, then it's married to a clone, then it's actual wedding.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a build-up to a wedding and it doesn't happen.
Yes.
And then there's an actual wedding, and she eats frogs, like all clones do.
It happens a lot. And it has that problem that a lot of things like this have, where, like, you're just teasing the audience, so you can't come up with a good reason in the story for why we don't just immediately, like, next Tuesday go ahead and have a wedding. Like, we were ready for it then. Why aren't we ready for it now? Unless the bad guy blew up everything. You know, you got the dress, you have the rings.
Yep.
You know, it's not that hard to get new flowers. I don't understand. Why do we have to wait 6 more months?
The show's kind of...
What does everything do that?
The show is kind of like X-Files if everyone, like, kept the lights on and it happened during the day.
Yeah, that's great.
Because, like, this is an X-Files scene. Like, you're at like, a space expedition place, you're talking to, like, a space person, like...
Yeah, but there's not going to be, like, anything supernatural, and there's not going to be, like, these big, like contradictory opinions from our protagonists, except that they're just not getting along that well right now.
Well, and they have different worldviews. And also, you know, talking about 90s progressive, we cannot undersell, like, X-Files is actually probably part of why this show gets started the way it is.
Yeah.
Like, Scully is definitely informing Lois.
I didn't even think of that. That's a good point.
I think Scully informs a lot of female protagonists
obviously,
in the 90s.
that show gets way, way away from, you know, the sexy reporter chick or sexy investigative person.
But also, not in publicity photos.
Yep, no, that's absolutely right. Because that's just how you sold stuff back then.
Well, and it was selling that is an outfit. That's not even an attractive outfit. That is just an outfit.
No, I'm not even going to agree with that. It's not an outfit. It needs something over it. She's not done getting dressed.
She kind of looks like one of the female Furies from Apocalypse.
She could have played that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, there's an outfit that looks something like that on one of them.
No, you're right. She could have played that.
Does this show do Maxima? I feel like this show does Maxima.
I think it does, yeah.
I can't remember.
Man, there's a Maxima issue from the mid-90s that for some reason I wound up with like a bunch of copies of.
She has her own book?
No, I just have Superman.
Oh.
Just her in the cover.
She's also in the Wedding album.
Is she?
Yeah, she shows up and she's like I want you now, like let's go, and then she's like, oh, you're a normal person, gross. Because he doesn't have his powers in that issue. I also like that he's not playing up the farm boy thing. Like,
yeah, but like he is naive. Like, I'm buying that he's from the Midwest.
He's not world weary, but he's not like, I don't want to say like a hick. Like, he's not, gee shucks. He's just a more upbeat, optimistic person.
And this feels more like, again, the contemporary for that time version of that. Like, I'm from the Midwest. I didn't know a lot of people like the way Clark is playing, or the way Christopher Reeve is playing Clark in 1979, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and the animated series, I guess, gets away from that, too. Although, I will say if we
That's true, but he's stiff in that show.
Yeah. If we include animated versions, that is the definitive Lois Lane. the animated series.
Well,
Lois Lane.
yeah, but
And
she's
she-
straight off the page. I mean,
and-
she's as perfect comic book as you ever get.
And that actress could have played it. I don't know if you've ever seen the
I
actress
have.
that voices her, but she's a dead ringer for like Lois Lane.
For everyone paying attention, I said 79, I meant 78.
And that woman, the woman that voices Lois Lane in Superman animated series, is on Desperate Housewives with Terry Hatcher. They are both stars of that show.
Wow, I didn't know she was in that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've never bothered watching that.
Neither have I, but I'm aware of some of the cast members. I have dated people that have watched that
I
show.
like Terry Hatcher. She's just never been in anything else I would care to watch.
She's in Tomorrow Never Dies and gets nothing
Oh, that's
to
right.
do.
She is. Okay, but besides that, I don't think I've seen her in much else that...
And she's not great in that.
The reason this relationship works so well, besides the fact that they have obvious chemistry from the word go, and we should mention, by the way, that they've got big shoes to fill, obviously, coming off of the Christopher Reeve movies.
But not with
And
Lois Lane.
with the chemistry between
Yes,
those two characters,
yes,
they absolutely
okay.
do, though,
That's
right?
fair.
Like, I would be really nervous trying to make this after that. I get that it's a TV show, but it's not that far removed from as far as like the comedy scenes and the interpersonal drama from what those movies were
But
doing.
the upside is this is after Superman 3 and 4.
Well, no, that's absolutely true. Yeah,
They're not
but,
thinking we have to compete with Superman.
but that's still the standard.
yeah.
You know, and really hard to do that again and not look like you're just, ripping it off or being like a low-rent version of it, and I think they do a great job of getting away from that. There's another scene that is lit kind of weird. It feels like it's shot with entirely different cameras.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were
I wonder if
suggesting
it's
earlier.
just, and it's grainier. I wonder if it's in all the special effects shots.
This scene always stuck with me.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
That looks good until it doesn't.
Until he swirls?
Until he starts. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
But
he doesn't move
at
at all
all
when he
good for 90s
swirls.
TV, and this looks good for 90s TV.
It does.
And this is what I think of when I think of the show as flying sequences.
But what I was going to say is that stuck with me, and I think part of it, I might be wrong about this, I think they used that scene in a promo
Okay.
where they like maybe played that scene, but I don't know if I'm right about that.
I like the after image effects on him. That is clearly
I do
a
too.
green screen.
Yes.
But I like the after image. It is clearly the same technology they used for Christopher Reeves, and that's the evolution of film. Is what was cutting edge for a 1978, 79? What did you say? it was?
78.
So, of course, because Star Wars is 79.
Yeah.
What is cutting edge technology?
No, Star Wars
for-
77.
Star Wars 77.
Yeah, Star Wars predates Superman.
Okay. Okay, I thought Star Wars was later.
Nope.
Well, I thought Empire was 80, and then Return of the Jedi was 82.
Empire is 80, but it took them 3 years to make it. I mean...
Oh, and then I
there's-
guess Jedi's probably 83 then? Maybe it's 3 years in between? Anyways.
I forget what year Jedi came out.
But it goes to show, like, cutting-edge technology in 78 is TV technology in 92.
Yeah.
Which will also get into Smallville. They do things that were cutting-edge movie effects in 1992.
So I want to talk about the just for a minute the history of Superman on television. Like, why do you think it's been such a constant the way it has?
I don't know. I've never understood it. We have
this tradition of Superman is practically always on television.
starting with Superboy in the 80s. Every decade has had a super show, if you count Supergirl as the 2010s super show.
Yeah.
What's so weird is that
And of course, George Reeves was back in the 50s, but it's really interesting that Superman has been was the first superhero regularly on television, and
maybe
then we
that's
keep
why.
doing it later.
Maybe
yeah.
that's why is like people can think of that in TV terms, but I think it's because he's lighter and more optimistic. Like, I think you would be wary of doing a Batman show on TV because could we make it look good and people take it seriously? You're not as concerned with that for Superman.
And also because it was too long before we could get away from the campy thing, and after 69, nobody wanted to see that again, but that's how they thought of Batman. So you needed 89 before anybody even took that character seriously. So the earliest you possibly could have had Batman on TV at all, much less as a serious dark character, is the 90s.
But you also needed the budget of that movie. Like, even if someone, even if they decided to do
And then
the
enter
dark,
Batman the Animated Series. That's why that happened.
Even if you decided to do a dark Batman TV show in the 80s in lieu of a movie, you couldn't have made it look good. It wouldn't have looked too far from the '60s show. You can get away with a lot more of that in Superman because it's a lighter character.
Yeah.
But the thing that's always fascinated me about it is...
You could if you took his gadgets away from him. I've always thought that. If Batman is just like Zorro or the Shadow or something, like, and he doesn't have big gadgets, like he has maybe a motorcycle or a car, and he doesn't have like a bunch of gadgets, and
I'm
your
thinking about like
villains aren't...
villains.
Well...
Like,
yeah.
Can Two-Face look good on an 80s television budget?
If you're thinking... Probably not, but we didn't bother with him in the 60s either.
That's true.
That almost
That's
happened,
true.
but yeah.
That's true. Like obviously you can do Riddler, you can do Joker.
I just think if you can do... I've never understood this idea that Batman is too big for television. And we proved that he's not with Gotham, which is just a Batman show without Batman in it. It looks marvelous, and we just don't have Batman.
You're right.
But this idea that... I mean, obviously, these days you can. Spider-Man, not so much. But that you know, with Daredevil, if you do Daredevil, why can't you do Batman?
Yeah,
but,
no, obviously you can now.
Yeah, but I just have never understood the idea that, like, if you can do, like, spy fiction, why can't you do Batman?
I think it's because the costumes have to be to a certain pedigree to be able to take it seriously. There's the Va-Va-Voom dress.
That's fair. Yep. And, like, yes, it's super low cut, and yes, we're making a big deal out of, you know, how attractive she is now, but, like, it makes sense that she's wearing it here.
It makes sense in the scene, yeah.
And she's doing that, like the reason she's doing it, the reason the scene's doing it are maybe two different things, but she's doing it because she's trying to impress Lex Luthor and stand out.
But it is also... I like that. But it is also the...
Yeah, that's great.
This is the sexy, hip 90s show. But I like that it doesn't have to be that every scene.
Yes.
Like, you're going to see sexy Lois, and you're going to see shirtless Clark, but we don't have to... That doesn't have to be everything the show is all the time.
See, I think the whole something for everyone thing, at least with this pilot, works pretty well, where, like, it's not all constantly being shoved at you, where it's trying to impress everyone in every scene, right? It's just, those things are gonna be there for you, whatever kind of person you are, at some point in the show, but it's gonna, for the most part, serve the story they're telling. Everything's integrated pretty well.
I agree.
But you see what I mean? It is surprising how well the show holds up.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
Like, it is of its time, most certainly. And I don't know if I would enjoy it as much if I didn't grow up with it. I mean, there is certainly a nostalgia thing here.
I think it would be hard to go back to.
Yeah.
If
is it that TOS thing where it's like, yes, this is great. I'm not even saying this is great, but yes, if I just read the script, it's pretty good, but I needed to be in the 60s. I don't have this, but a lot of people do, where it's like, I needed to be in the 60s to appreciate the way they made television back then.
And Doctor Who has that, and there's certain people that have talked about, like, Doctor Who was better if you read the novels because it was your imagination. You didn't have to deal, because they novelized almost every episode of that show. You didn't have to deal with the budgetary restrictions, which were even worse than Star Trek because it was a British television production.
It looked like it was shot on high-8 cameras.
Yeah. Well, and they're basically teleplays for a long time.
So this scene is going to have a lot, and already is going to have a lot of conveniently placed lightning. Do you remember what happens in the scene? Do you remember the snake?
You know what? It's
There's
funny
a snake charm right
because I thought there was a snake in this scene, but I couldn't like remember why. I'm like, surely there's not a snake in this scene.
I love that introducing Lex to Clark with the at knife point. I love it. I love it so or a sword point. I love it so much.
And it's a Lex with hair, which is not as radical in the 90s because he's got long hair right around this, and he's just balding in Man of Steel. Like, he has hair. He's naturally balding in Man of Steel.
I need someone... A lot of people aren't going to get this, know this reference, but I need someone to explain to me why in the radio drama version of Death of Superman, that Lex has an Australian accent. Does he have that in the comics? Are we told that he's got an Australian accent for some reason?
I'm not sure.
They have a... they have a really good take on this character. He is very much what Lex was at this period.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, again, they clearly looked at John Byrne, because this is kind of John Byrne's lags.
Yeah, a lot of this
Don't you think?
is from John Byrne. Like we know for a fact that they were looking at the John Byrne stuff.
And I don't think this show works as well if it's made even 5 years earlier, right? Because you're not as likely to get the corporate tycoon Lex and.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't because John Byrne invented that.
We grew up with that, and for a long time it was hard to think about Lex as a mad scientist.
Well, and this is a big disconnect that we both have, and everyone, I think, of our generation has with the previous generation is there were things that just that were radical reinventions and we didn't know.
That's right.
Because the animated series people, Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, these are all people.
He's got the bow tie in that scene.
That don't like corporate Lex, but they're like, well, it works and people like it.
Yeah.
Morrison did his best with at the New 52, where he's a mad scientist, but those were things that people that came before didn't like or never felt right.
And if you didn't live through it, you'd probably look at a lot of comics and stuff on screen now and be like, why can we not get away from this idea of Lex as the president? What is that about? Mm-hmm. That was this real small 3-year period.
Mm-hmm. And there's and there's even older people that just hate John Byrne's that whole era of Superman. Just that's not Superman, which is something that I can't empathize with at all.
Yeah, it's whatever you grew up with.
Yeah.
So that is just a brilliant hologram. It looks absolutely wonderful, Eric.
It looks pretty good for 90s TV.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Nothing in this show looks as good as X-Files, but it doesn't look awful. It looks good for TV.
Well, it also helps that X-Files was doing a lot of gritty stuff and trying to make it look real, like it's on screen. And
there was a lot of stuff in the shadows.
Except for the occasional spaceship thing or whatever. That show's not doing a lot of those kinds of optical effects.
Not until later seasons when they've got a much larger budget.
Yeah. The thing that always struck me about first and second season X-Files especially is that it feels like there's a camera in a real place, it's really happening.
But we're doing like with Tombs, he stretches, and you see some of that.
It helps that so much of that stuff's in the dark, and they intentionally use grainy footage, and it might as well be a documentary camera. This scene also always stuck with me. And having not seen this in a lot of years and going back to it, I remember the snake. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's a snake.
Yeah, well, the second I went in that room, I had flashes of, Temple of Doom, which is basically what this... Not Temple of Doom, Ray's Lost Ark, which is kind of what this scene
listen
is.
To that score. This show is not afraid to score a scene.
This is also insanely dumb in the real world. I don't care how tough you think you are, animals do not care.
Yeah, but, well, okay, so you're right, but remember that behind him is a snake charmer. And so, there's a guy that's there to, immediately rescue him if it doesn't work out. It's not just him alone with that snake.
I thought the snake charmer was just there to... I don't like that. I thought he was just there to send him in at him. I didn't think he was there to help him.
I might be wrong about that. But, he stands there the whole time, I just love the idea we do this every day. This Lex is so wonderfully eccentric. But, he's super charismatic, and he does the thing that Smallville Lex does, too. Yeah, it's awesome. Their goal in this whole sequence, the set of scenes, has been to make you love their Lex, and they do a really good job of it.
John Byrne's Lex is also a cigar smoker. I don't know if that predates it, but I don't think so.
But he's wonderfully charismatic, but he's also the right kind of arrogant, and he's got kind of the world at his fingertips, and so it's difficult to argue with him that he's as arrogant as he is because he almost earns it, he almost deserves it, and he does that thing that Smallville Lex does that I've always loved, where he's got some kind of a historic reference for everything. He's got a metaphor of a
that was a Power Rangers effect.
Yeah. I've also never cared for it was fun and cute and quaint when I was a kid, but I think even this show is maybe a little bit too serious for, tell me if I'm wrong about this, for the spinning around and now you're wearing your suit thing.
No, I loved it as a kid.
Oh, yeah, well, I loved it as a kid, but I don't know if it works. It's got that.
He goes in revolving doors, though, right? He doesn't just spin around like Wonder Woman. Like, he goes into a revolving door.
No, he does. I don't know if he does it in this episode, but it becomes a thing.
Oh, I always...
He very often will... It is like Wonder Woman, and I don't think the clothes go anywhere.
I always remember it as revolving doors. If he just spins, that is rather silly.
That's what I'm saying, that happens a lot.
Doors.
They do that too, but later on, I remember specifically there's a scene where, after Lois knows that he's Superman, but I think before they get married, I think it's like, you know who I am now, so I can finally do this for you, and he spins around in front of her, and he's got the
I
suit
do recall that, yes.
So how do you feel about the fact that he even gives her the time of day?
I like that he's polite.
You're
right. Because he's not interested in her.
Yeah. No, that's true, but like... No, I forgot. I thought they actually went out on a date, but he doesn't right away anyway.
And if he does, it's because he's being polite.
Yeah, that's true.
He clearly isn't interested. That's a tie. That's a power tie.
I love how much self-respect he has, but he's not, like, domineering.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, he walks this wonderful line with Lois where, like, he's not going to take crap from her, but he also inherently is naturally interested and attracted to her.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not going to... And, of course, they have to be partners, so he can't do this. But, like, he's not going to burn bridges right away. He's not just going to come right out and start being mean to her. But when she pushes it too far, he's gonna straight up say, yeah, you're stuck up.
Mm-hmm.
You just are.
You're going too far here.
Yeah. And that's the place, that's the moment where, it separates itself so much from the Christopher Reeve version and says, we have a different take.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good take.
I like a confident Clark Kent. And I also think that that's a thing that we just don't do anymore. Like we knew Secret Origin, but, like, you can see it in Secret Origin, you can see it even in Earth 1, and definitely in American Alien, where, like, I think modern Clark Kent, at least when we're doing origin stories, has too much Peter Parker in him. Where he's just a little too nerdy and he's a little too, meek.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, and, like, again, that just comes from, like, my foundation. But I don't like how young we treat Superman. Like, I know Superman's supposed to be, like, perpetually 29, but, like, I always saw Superman, like, more than any other superhero, I was like, that's an adult. That is a grown-up person.
Well, yeah, and he's supposed to be the ideal. We're supposed to look up to him, so he should have some stuff figured out more. Or you tell a story where we eventually get him there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with doing so many Superman origins and never following forward from that.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. Especially with American Alien. Because it's, for the most part, such a good take.
But
and
Earth 1's like that, too. Like,
stories.
Earth 1, you get him to, like, a great Superman status quo.
Yep.
And there's not going to be any more of that.
No, it's unfortunate. But yeah, I think you can have those, like, small-town values and still have self-respect and have confidence and be sure of yourself and take risks. I could see the argument with this pilot anyway, maybe, that Lois is, like, is the really flawed character and she's got a lot to learn and Clark is too perfect. I could maybe see that. I've never had that thought. So I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate
Superman.
right now. That's the thing, and that's the difficulty with trying to tell stories about this character is that, like, he's supposed to be the ideal, but you also want to be able to relate to him and for him to be a human being who makes mistakes. And can you have both?
Usually the balance between the two of them is that she's maybe a little too cynical and he's maybe a little too naive. Even when they're older,
and we are
he sees the world through rose-tinted glasses and she sees the world through like pitch black glasses.
So this is very 50s, or even Fleischer.
I didn't remember this.
I like that.
I like this too. That's very fun.
And it's fun because it does stuff that the Reeve movies did, but not exactly the same way. So, like, in Superman 2, he flies off and gets her flowers, I think, or whatever it is, from a bazillion miles away, and here he does it with Chinese food. And it's fun because he really did go to China, but he's not tipping his hat too much because, well, I mean, maybe there's a place that has that authentic of food. Although she should be asking where it is. I want to go there every weekend.
Yeah.
That's fun.
would not
the
have a
Chinese
fortune cookie.
No, they wouldn't. But it is kind of fun that it's in
Because it's
Chinese.
an American invention. Although that's a little bit of a misnomer.
Because it's hollow and full of lies and leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
But that's a little bit of a misnomer. It is an American invention, but it's a Chinese person that invented it as like a thing with their Chinese restaurant. It's actually disputed. There's one of two people.
Oh, okay. So it's not just some white guy.
No,
opening a Chinese restaurant.
No. It is a Chinese person. We actually don't know who it is. There are two potential people, but they are people that ran Chinese restaurants that were Chinese people. So it's not like completely from us, but it is not a Chinese thing.
Yo, man,
culturally,
the beginning of this relationship, it just works.
Yeah.
And I like that they don't get so gimmicky with it where it's like they have to absolutely hate each other. That's the thing I didn't like in Smallville, where like...
Well, that's the thing I don't like in any of the CWs either. Are these characters going to be together? They have to be as far away from that as they could possibly can, so that we literally can never get to the point where it makes sense for these people to be together.
Yeah. And part of the reason we do that is because we think it's clever, where it's like, we know someday they'll be together, so we have to do the exact opposite. And that's why Clark in that show has to be afraid of heights, and all of that. Everything's got to be the exact opposite.
And some of that's cute, and then some of it is like, I get it. He's going to be Superman.
But we also do it so that we can take forever to get there.
He's never going to go into battle with an S on his chest.
Yeah. I hate that. But this, it's like... Look, we are gonna tease you. We're not gonna put them together right away, but you wouldn't expect them to put them together right away. And I mean, the nice thing is you just kind of already have that built-in thing with the comics with these characters. Like they wouldn't be dating right away.
No.
So we can take our time with that.
But you immediately see these two people like, yeah, they're gonna get together. They haven't figured it out yet, but they're going to.
Yeah. And it isn't that, like, once they get engaged and it takes forever to get married, that's obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
But, and there's reasons for that, but with, it's not the same thing as the hiding the secret thing for 6 straight years in Smallville. I will say, when she finally finds out the first time and then has her memory erased at the end, kind of like Superman 2, she's very obnoxious and it doesn't work. I don't know if you remember that, but she finds out in, I think, the first Tempest episode, and she just will not stop berating him for not telling her and for lying to her, and he hardly gets to explain himself, and it's really irritating. We reviewed that on some show a few years ago, so it's been a while since I watched that, but we talked about that on a live show back when we had the 7. But I remember that not working and being obnoxious. And it is kind of teasy because it's like, oh, of course you have to do that thing where she gets her memory erased, and then we'll find out later.
I like that bit in the previous scene with Clark being the little too squeaky clean, like the cop's there, and he makes some joke about the guy fried himself. He should have put himself in sauce or something like that. And he's like, hey, it's a serious situation. Maybe you shouldn't be making jokes. Where it's like, yeah, that's how they cope with their job. Like, that's how people in those kinds of professions, like, don't go crazy. But I like that's the Superman moral thing, but, like, being a little too naive, and I enjoy that.
So we're about to get to the montage that you alluded to earlier with the suits.
I remember a green costume. I remember a really terrible.
Do you remember the leopard print costume?
I don't, but
because you're about to see it, that's gonna happen.
Oh, and also to counterbalance the va-va-voom dress, here is him completely shirtless in a towel.
Yep. Because you got to have that.
Because it's for everybody.
Yeah.
It's for moms, for dads, for the kids.
And obviously that stuff plays as obvious in TV, but
yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Hey, it's better than the Marvel movies that only do shirtless men in every movie.
What do you think of this running gag that because he's Kryptonian and has the effect with the sun that he only eats junk food?
I think that's fun.
Yeah, I was.
And it's not a bad take on what they were trying to do in Ghost, or what Nicolas Cage was trying to do in Ghost Rider.
That's true.
The idea that, like, well, wouldn't you live like a kid?
Yeah.
If you could, why wouldn't you only eat things that taste good?
See, she eats like an 8-year-old. Well, see, it's like Captain Hammer. I'm just naturally like this. I don't go to the gym.
There's a bit in Man of Steel, the comic, the John Byrne comic, not the Brian Michael Bendis comic, and not the movie by whatever his name is.
Or the ongoing through the 90s.
Yeah, but the Man of Steel mini, there's a bit I like where she asks a similar question, and she lifts one of his weights that he has. He has weights there to explain why he's fit, but it's just for show. He didn't bother.
Oh, so she picks it up and it doesn't weigh anything?
She's like,
I don't remember that.
These aren't much heavier than what I use.
We reviewed that, right?
We did. That was one of the first things we reviewed when we got here because we started the Superman origin thing.
I mean, it's been 3 years now.
Well, and I've read that multiple times. I might go back to that sometimes.
It's good.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, this is going to put me in a Superman mood again. And then I'm going to want to read Superman things.
And specifically this era.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, I think, but, like, it does absolutely nail the spirit of this character.
Yeah. And again, this period of this character, like, if you were reading Superman comics right when this is coming out, you're liking this show.
Sure.
Right?
Like, as you said, it feels like an adaptation.
Yeah.
It's definitely of that flavor.
It's...
They could have done something akin to Death of Superman in this show. Not budget-wise, but it does feel like that same world.
It's,
I would have loved to see Doomsday in this show.
It's a good version of Synergy. We're like, I guess aside from not being able to do the wedding, like, they're not informing each other too much. Like, this is allowed to be its own thing, building off of that, and those aren't being forced to be what this show... Like, it wasn't like all of a sudden all the Superman books had to be the sultry love story kind of a thing.
Well, and how generic could the tone have been for this in trying to appeal to different audiences? Like, isn't it cool that that if you're reading Superman, you're getting authentically what that feels like in the comic, but it's also not just for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's pretty impressive. And I'm sure there were people that watched this that like Superman in the comics and thought it was kind of lame, particularly when they get to when they took the kinds of risks like Death of Superman that this show would never do.
I spent so much on this model. And now it's a model of nothing. It doesn't even exist. People come in, they go, what's that a model of? I've never seen that satellite.
I think...
Hey, Star Labs.
I think
Which is a big thing in the show.
Yeah.
And where I first heard about them.
That's right. And partly why Star Labs kind of drives me crazy in the Arrowverse, because it was
evil.
Always so related to Superman when in my childhood. Anyway.
Yeah, mine as well. Well, and I distinctly remember an episode where we find out that he
Does the show also have Cadmus?
I
can't remember.
So.
It does have Intergang, doesn't it?
Yes, I believe it does have.
Isn't
Intergang.
that in here? Anyway, I'm sorry.
It is in the animated series. No, because Intergang's related to the Fourth World. Which is why it's in the Superman animated series. Anyways,
okay.
Because they ran through like the 6 Superman villains. It was like, well, what do we do now? And they're like, well, we'll just use the Fourth World. And forevermore, Darkseid was the Superman villain.
Yep.
But where's I going with that? It's going somewhere.
I'm sorry.
Where's I going? What was I even saying?
So now he's finally going to call her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just comes right out and calls her a snob. I love this scene. In fact, I would go as far as to say that this is the scene that really makes this relationship work. Like, you have to have this scene. Well, you know, and then looking at that, like, maybe he's not too perfect. Like,
no, he's they're both wrong in that scene.
Yeah.
It's rather.
I always remembered it as no, he needed to call her out there. Like, maybe that had to happen eventually, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, but she's sticking up for herself, and she's not completely. It's that you don't know me, like don't paint me with your brush. Like you don't know what I'm doing. Or who I am.
Yeah, you're oversimplifying me.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's for those of you that didn't grow up in the '90s. If you're a woman in the early '90s and you go to something important, you have to get a perm. It's very important.
Not as important as it was in the '80s.
All of our moms did that.
I also don't think this show could have existed in any other era. I think after the '90s, We Could Never Be This Light Again, and before the 90s, it would have been way too light. Like if we tried to do this in the 80s, it would have been akin to a sitcom. Well, I guess I've not seen Superboy. Maybe Superboy is not that light. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I watched the pilot and it kind of is.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I would
assume. And it's real silly, but
that's exactly what I would think it would be.
Yeah, I'll finally watch some more of that at some point.
I was always impressed by just like the amount of villains that they apparently have in that show.
Yeah.
And that they would even attempt it, because this show doesn't.
And that is one of the big kind of detractors with this show, is that it could use some costume villains. It just doesn't have very many. Now, you wouldn't expect it in the pilot. You wouldn't expect the costume villain to predate Superman. Like I much prefer the idea that in a world like this where you don't seem to have other superheroes, you wouldn't have costume villains until you have a costume hero. That's fine.
And a lot because a lot of Superman's villains are kind of science fiction. Like they don't have to wear costumes.
Yeah.
Like we do Toyman in this.
Yeah.
And like that.
I don't remember him at all.
Oh, I do. He kidnaps Lois, and I don't like vividly remember him, but like I remember watching that episode, which means it's probably in later seasons.
But most of the villains in the show are kind of lame, where they're just like a really eccentric mad scientist. They're real generic. It's not even a lot of corporate bad guys, because we kind of just relegate that to Lex. Some of them are. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's just like, here's a crazy, wacky scientist saying computer jargon. There's a lot of that.
My computer has 5 whole megabytes. It's got 32 pixels. No, and I think part of the problem when they did comic book villains is sometimes I don't think they're made a big enough deal out of. Like, as I recall, like Metallo is not. I think Metallo just looks like a guy, and like it's all under the skin, like it's like a Terminator. Which I guess is kind of what John Byrne did with it, but like we real quick like mess him up so you can see the skeleton, and we don't do that in the show. But they don't repeat. Like they don't feel any more important or special than any of the previous.
You're right. We don't have a lot of recurring villains except for Lex and Tempest.
And Lex is barely recurring.
And I love Tempest. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's great, but
well, and I guess the Kryptonians in the last season, but
isn't that just like a two-parter though? Like. It's not like through the season. It's not like a big.
I thought it was like a good chunk of that season.
I don't think it is.
But I also haven't been back to that season since I was 6.
Sure, yeah.
It felt like it was really big and went on for a while. But you might be right.
I mean, this pilot avoids some easy pitfalls that a lot of this shows like this would fall into, like this is certainly a pilot that is primarily here to get us to the regular status quo and to introduce all the characters, but like it is telling a story. Mm-hmm. And I would have maybe expected like introducing some like lame throwaway villain for Superman to fight real quick and dismiss, or not even have a villain in the first episode. It's really nice to introduce Lex right away, and I could have seen them waiting on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the unfortunate thing is that the actor leaves and we don't get him for a while.
Yeah, and it flounders after that. It's not sure what to do without him. Mm-hmm. They really want a regular series big bad. But it works because like he's in the. It's not like Superman's like punching out the same bad guy every episode. It's not Power Rangers, and hilariously starts the same year Power Rangers does. But it's like or real close. But like he's just operating in the background like you would expect Lex Luthor to do. So that was weird blocking. Lois is blocking Clark's face there, and I don't know about that shot. That was a strange choice.
Realistic.
Oh, okay.
It's naturalist.
I guess I also like the idea that Clark is like fascinated by this woman, so he doesn't immediately pick up that she's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like I don't pick up that she's the bad guy in her first scene or when she's on TV. It's not until we do the reveal with Lex.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, you're evil.
And we should remember, of course, this obviously predates Mercy.
Yes.
like there's so much more mythology after this that we use all the time that if we made this even 5 or 10 years later, there would be other characters that you would expect pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that montage happened right after they talked about it, but it doesn't. We set it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And then it's a long time before we finally get back to it. Because I forgot, you have to have that scene, and we do this in a lot of Superman stuff, and I think Burns does it too, question mark, where it's been a while since we read that, where he has to save people not wearing a costume and hope that nobody sees his face.
Yes, that happens in Burns because that's everyone's like grabbing onto him. And he's like, they all wanted a piece of me.
That's right. They do that here, but they don't grab onto him. He just shows up wearing black, and of course, I love Superman in black, so it's kind of neat that the first time he shows up, he's just wearing a black, generic outfit, and no camera catches his face.
That's not a great shirt. That looks like something my dad would wear.
No, neither is hers though. Hers is also bad. Oh no, Lex Luthor should never wear that. Lex is ready to play Blue's Clues. Lex Skidoo, you can't do.
Is it a choice that he's wearing Superman colors? Or is that a coincidence?
I'm gonna say that's a coincidence. I'm gonna call that a coincidence,
God,
especially because
look at that
looks more
wallpaper.
maroon than red. Oh yeah, he's got this whole Egyptian obsession in the show. Wow, that's a gun. The fashion in this is amazing.
Not black or silver, which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, it was kind of gray, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's gray.
Superficial the commentary.
Well, you don't often see guns in any media that are not black or gray.
Well, that's a good point.
Or like gunmetal gray. That was like a tan.
I just cannot get around the collared shirt he was wearing. It's insane.
It's very intense.
I want him to do very evil things wearing that shirt. I want the snake scene, but with that shirt.
I want like a scene where he breaks down.
No polo shirts for Lex Luthor.
Like all the evil things he's done. Where he's like, I closed an orphanage today, and I blew up a hospital, and I leaked radiation into the water supply of the slums. But while wearing that shirt, that was a really high kick. Did you see that?
Yeah. Maybe the idea is supposed to be that Lex is like so prominent in the city and controls so much that he can get away with anything, including that shirt.
One of the things I think this
you expect the tag to still be on it.
With what you were saying about Lex earlier, that works about Lex that I think we get wrong in a lot of other places. We didn't do Secret Origin, but Secret Origin has this real bad. You have trouble believing that person can actually get to that level in society because they're so clearly an evil lunatic.
Yeah.
Animated series is on that line. I like animated series Lex, but sometimes I have trouble believing he ever had the public's trust.
Yeah, and like you can take it to a certain degree because there's a lot of things you can chalk up to eccentricity, right? There's a lot of stuff where it's like, well, yeah, he's gonna get away with stuff all the way up to, but not including breaking the law because he's really rich and eccentric and. But you're right. Very often, Lex is just obviously evil.
Yeah, like he's really evil. And you're like, well, he's rich. And I'm like, yeah, but he also is supposed to like captivate the people. Like you're playing him like he captivates the people, but like he's like a crazy megalomaniac. Just need some air. I'm smoking.
Look, this is just what I do when I'm nervous. I just go find a back room.
You got a cell phone or something? Like, were you rich? You came from the country.
Yeah, and like, where did you put your cell phone? Because it's not gonna fit in a pocket.
Okay,
it's gonna look like you're commanding an army. Yeah.
And
oh, that I forgot about that whole thing. He's coming out of the closet very soon. How do you feel about that joke?
it's fine. It's the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put yourself in time.
And there's the woman that everyone in the office has slept with, throwing herself at him, and he's not interested. Like, that's fine. No, what I like about that scene, and
that's a good point.
And you can't do this with a not confident Clark, is that he's so like confident and like Perry walks in, and Clark is doing something very strange, and he just acts like he's not. Like, there is nothing weird going on here. Why are you here? And Perry's just like, yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's fun that he'll get in situations like the one that we're watching right now where he's not sure what to do and what to say, but he's not suddenly timid and nervous.
Yeah.
Like, he's still got this intensity in his eyes. He's still like, he's just groping around for a plan. It's like, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm. I am surprised that wasn't a cigarette joke. I would have thought that like in the 90s, because people were still smoking on television, that he would have been like, I'm a little stressed. Like, I feel like that would be an easy excuse. It's like, I was going to smoke a cigarette here with the window open. Because he just opened the window. That would have been an easy excuse. Although he doesn't have cigarettes, so if Perry was like, I'll have one too, he would have been screwed. But.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, where did I put them? I had them just a minute ago.
Although, I guess you could then immediately be like, well, oh man, I forgot I'm out. I ran on the way to work or whatever. But
so we're gonna do.
And now they're both trapped.
We're gonna do this
really
scene.
trapped,
No,
but...
he's not. And that's why he's so nonchalant, which is fun. And if memory serves, he's gonna have this point where he's just gonna go, "Oh, I got out of this somehow, Lois."
I think he'll say that they weren't that tight or something like that.
Yeah. They were really loose. But yeah, we're gonna do this scene in other episodes with a lot of different characters. I think there's one of these with Jimmy and her.
There's one with Jimmy and Perry.
Is there?
Yeah.
We do this a lot, and it's I guess it's kind of fun that we do this before his first save. But like, this is going to be a trope that we just constantly do. Like, especially Lois gets tied up at least as often as Archer does. Probably not quite as much as Archer does.
Star Trek Archer?
Star Trek Archer.
Okay. There's a very popular television show called Archer.
I know. That's an Enterprise thing where every other episode, everybody's getting kidnapped. But at least I can see what's going on here. That's good. But yeah, we could tell his name was Claude.
I also like that he could get them out at any moment, but he is letting her vent.
Yeah.
Because he's a good person? Well, and he's also interested in her.
Part of it is he's a good person, and part of it is probably he's hoping that she'll, kind of open up and admit to some of her obnoxiousness, which is what she does. But I
like that nod to "We're only human." He's like, well.
Oh, you're right. That's fun.
Oh, I was going to say the thing. I remember what I was going to say before.
Oh, good.
I forgot.
Sorry.
It's not important at all, but I remembered.
Yeah.
It was with Star Labs.
We're not doing nothing. Go ahead.
I remember there's an episode where they find out that Clark is going to live for hundreds of years, and that like he is
what?
In this.
In this?
Yeah.
Oh, they do that in this?
Yeah, there's an episode where they find out, maybe it's not hundreds of years, but that he ages way slower, and like there's this big sacrifice at the end of an episode at Star Labs where he has to get in this machine and it ages him. He doesn't look any different, but like it takes years off his life so that he's going to live a shorter lifespan so that he will be with Lois like a more appropriate amount of time.
Oh, interesting.
I remember this episode.
Huh.
But yeah, that's what I'd forgotten I was bringing up earlier with the Star Labs.
I can see why this show would feel the need to do that if they were, but you could just have a Superman that ages normally.
And we're always fast and loose with that.
Yes, very much so.
Superman doesn't look that much younger than Batman in Kingdom Come.
That's true. Because that's not a thing that we're concerned about a lot with that relationship. Like Lois and Clark in the comics, like they get
you
married.
You think they really have a conversation about like what happens after I die and you're still alive?
If they do, years? I never read it.
That's one of the reasons I really want that Matthew Vaughn, Mark Millar Superman trilogy that they pitched that would end with him watching the sun burn out. It would start with the
Yes.
explosion of Krypton.
I know, and I wanted it so bad. It's such a good idea.
Burning up. But in that trilogy, you have to deal with... Well, he's not going to be with Lois forever.
Yeah, that's right. You have to deal with the ways in which he is like Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So, this does have that problem, and it's really hard not to have this with Superman, where you're going to make a big deal out of a dangerous situation, but like there's not really any danger because we know that that Clark has superpowers, and
that shot is in the.
It's in the opening.
Yeah, I remember that shot vividly. Also, I think I'm right. I think the quality gets worse every time we're in the effect shot.
I think you're right. So as soon as that happens, you're like, okay, there's gonna be some kind of visual effect now.
Did you hear his explanation for how they got out of the chains?
No, I didn't.
He throws the chains off because they're gonna die, and he starts like moving her because like it's going to explode, and she goes, "How did you do that?" And he just says, "Missing link."
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. And then he says the way they landed in the puddle is the force of the explosion shot us here, which is he's a way better liar than Tom Welling.
Yes.
Clark, isn't he?
Well, he's also older. He's not.
Oh, sure.
He's not
Yeah.
a first-year high schooler.
Yeah, but Clark has to lie so often. You'd think at some point he'd start getting better at it, and he never does. But
that's because he's a good person.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
That's not what it watches like. It watches more like he stagnates and doesn't grow as a person.
How much more do we have? Because they haven't done the costume yet, and the plot is over. I mean, it's not like over, but like we are in wrap-up.
Yeah, it feels like that.
There's no way we're only like halfway through, right?
We are more than halfway through,
okay.
but we still have 17 minutes.
Okay, this feels like the end of the pilot, right? Like everybody's cheering and like they did the thing and not for a Superman show because Superman hasn't shown up. But
that's
like,
right. Yeah.
This feels like kind of the wrap. Oh, okay, we're tacking on here, so it's not over.
Yeah, it's like Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of He's Not Superman Yet.
Yeah.
You know,
or Smallville.
It's actually
Smallville
in disguise. Yeah, they're not in Smallville, so you can't call it that. It's Metropolis. I always really liked that the show, status quo-wise, starts in the place that it does and doesn't feel a need to go back and do Smallville stuff.
Well, we
like,
weren't doing that.
He just well, yeah, but the first Superman movie does it. Like it's kind of neat that they didn't feel the need to retread all that. Where it's just he shows up in Metropolis Go,
and that is probably assuming everyone's seen the movie, right?
Yeah, we can just but also even if you haven't, like you can fill in everything just by he's got a relationship with his parents and he talks to them. And,
yeah,
but yeah, I knew we weren't.
Is this
anywhere close
the
to
only
done yet
Superman origin that doesn't open with the ship coming to? Either on Krypton or the ship coming to Earth?
You know, I think you're right. And usually we do this with an airplane or a helicopter, but this time it's got to be bigger, so it's got to be a shuttle. I also like that this Clark is, you know,
there
like
it is.
Intelligent. There it is, that leopard print.
And Aquaman pants.
That's got to be intentional, right?
Probably not. It doesn't match.
No,
like, what was she thinking?
No, it's like she
this is the green one I remember.
Two pieces of entirely different things together. The yellow...
Oh, that's terrible.
That's insane. Why would you do that? The yellow circle in that costume is unintentionally interesting for a Superman thing. Because that's where he gets his powers from, is
this
the sun.
This is the fear of making a Batman show. Is that it's going to look like this on a 90s TV budget.
What I love about the scene, though, first of all, it could have gone way longer, and I'm glad it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about this is, well, first of all, I like that there's an evolution where she gets pieces of the costume, but it's still not quite right. But I forgot about that. But also, I like that they're so confident in the suit that they make that they do all these crappy suits, and then it really does look that much better in comparison to them.
I might have sketched them before I started sewing all of the costumes.
Well, that's a really good point. That kind of scene only works if you're in a high school and you've got a prop closet. Like, I like that his parents are kind of spunky.
Yeah.
And his dad's, like, real sarcastic, and they're not just generic and lame and, like, so... like old-fashioned, that there's no personality to them.
And this is some of what we did when John Byrne kind of reinvented. I'm just going to keep saying John Byrne throughout this commentary.
Well, I never thought about that, but it feels like John Byrne stuff.
I want to say at some point, like when I was looking into this show years ago, like it's intentional. Like they were looking at John Byrne stuff. Like it's not like an accident.
Well, it's smart.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that stuff really does translate pretty well to television.
That S looks a little pasted on.
It looks entirely pasted on.
It looks like it's peeling.
Yep. It's going to fall off when he starts flying. Well, no, you need the cape in order to bank, Eric.
Yeah.
You gotta have, according to Max Landis, that's what the cape is for.
For turning. We're not going to explain that. We're just going to say it.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have the question I have?
I don't know.
Well, why would you pretend to wear glasses before you knew you were going to have a secret identity?
Yeah, good call.
What is the point of that?
Good call.
And there's no explanation for that at all.
To be more
He doesn't
humble?
need them to see. So why is he wearing them?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That doesn't work.
Nope. That's why you can't have Clark Kent before you have Superman.
Yeah, valiant effort, but alas. That's also the reason that I'm going to make fun of Smallville again. That's also the reason that you can't have Smallville and Metropolis sitting right next to each other. Because if he goes to Metropolis and works there for any amount of time without wearing glasses, people are going to recognize him.
I really like that reaction from her where she doesn't fully believe him. He's like, it won't be me, and he takes his glasses off to like demonstrate, and she's like, yeah.
I love, and they're both like, sure, yeah. I love that. But it does work. And maybe they're a little bit inconsistent with the story logic in like having the parents that skeptical of it, but I don't care. That's a fun
But
scene.
they weren't like super skeptical. It's just like, okay.
It's almost the show acknowledging it, right?
Yeah.
Where it's tongue-in-cheek before it's anything, where it's like, we know this doesn't make sense, but we're trying to be faithful enough to the source material.
It's interesting how much in modern times a lot of modern Superman things have like really doubled down on like, no, this isn't dumb. He's in a city of millions of people.
Yeah.
And like, why would anyone think he's Superman?
Honestly, I think Max Landis does it the best. Mm-hmm. Where if somebody asks him that knows, like, well, what if somebody like recognized you, and he goes, well, people tell me all the time I look like Superman.
Yeah, it's about the glasses. He's like, you just never take glasses off? He's like, no, I take them off all the time. You know, people say, yeah, I look like Superman.
Yeah, but they don't think I'm Superman.
I actually really like what John Byrne did with it, because I'm just going to keep saying John Byrne, where no one thinks Superman has a secret identity, so no one's even looking or suspecting. They just assume he's always being Superman.
Do you think
Superman doesn't have hours? He just shows up.
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you think people in the world of Captain Planet are running around trying to find Captain Planet? Yeah. That's a guy that doesn't have a secret. He only exists when bad things happen. And Superman is so perfect that people probably think that he just materializes when bad things happen. Yep. He feels like a genie. Like Superman is a genie to people.
Yeah. And once people know about the Fortress of Solitude, they assume he just hangs out there. Like, the way John Byrne plays is that no one thinks that no one even considers the idea that he has a secret identity.
Yeah.
Because obviously at that point we're kind of at the beginning of superheroes, and so I don't even know how much the public knows that people have secret identities. Like, do people think Batman's just always Batman?
If you have but maybe not so, as much with him because he's wearing a mask. It's to hide something.
And he goes out at night.
With Superman, it's like, and he's got all these gadgets. He's rich and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think that Superman would need anything.
A great shot, but not a bad shot.
That sounds like a conflicted opinion. I never understood that reaction. Why is everybody throwing stuff at him?
I think it's because they think he's joking.
Or that he just doesn't know how to look through binoculars, right?
Yeah, like they don't think that's what it actually is. That's the only way that reaction makes sense to me. That's right, he has to stop all this.
So I always thought it was weird, and I might be remembering this wrong because it's been a long time since I watched much of the show.
That's pretty good.
But if memory... Yeah, that's great. That was a tick move is what that was.
Yeah, it was.
All he needed was a rolling pin. But do you remember that a little bit later, I think it's in first season, they're going to change the suit where the sides of the cape are going to be laying on top, and it's not tucked in? It doesn't look good. I don't know why they did that. And you'd think that would be like a weird look they started with and they changed later. They don't do that. They start with it right, and then they do that. And then I think it goes back.
I don't know. When I was a kid, he has a very specific way of standing.
I was totally wrong. He does not do a save in a black suit. I thought he did that.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that happened. I was remembering it wrong.
He has a very specific way of folding his arms. When he stands, usually judgmentally, he has a judgmental way of folding his arms. And I used to do that as a kid. I used to...
see, look, Superman inspiring kids. Sorry, 45 seconds after Superman shows up, he's already inspiring kids. That's great.
Also, I wanted glasses when I was a kid because Clark Kent has glasses.
Really?
Yeah. And I got glasses, and it sucks.
You're like, forget it.
No, this show was huge for me as a kid. I loved this show and Superman. And to some degree, I'd see that. I guess I do love the movie too. Like, I see the movie and love the movie, but as a kid, for me, this is Superman.
She's from something.
Oh, you know what else we have in this? Because it's the time period.
Yeah.
But that we often don't do anymore, and I kind of miss the S on the back.
Yes.
We never do the S on the back anymore, and that's the credits for this show. That's that super classy,
I love it.
Like gently wafting curtains, but it's Superman's it's Superman's cape.
Yeah, it's great. That was in the Reef films too.
Is it?
Yeah, they had it
in the credits.
No, I just mean on the back of it.
Well, Superman always had it.
Yeah.
And then at some point we decided that was silly. Sometimes we think too much about these things.
I think so too. I have a very it's not broke, don't fix it thing with Superman's costume. There are little changes here and there I don't have a huge problem with, but it's just, it was kind of right in the first place. There's not really a lot of reason to mess with it. Or, we did some tweaks over the years. Mm-hmm. And then we finally kind of nailed it. I'm much more okay with messing around with Batman than I am Superman.
Well, and we've talked about before,
and there's reasons for Batman to have different costumes in a way there's not with Superman.
Well, I think we've talked about before
that
the S grows and shrinks, and I like a smaller S. I think this S is actually perfectly sized.
Yeah, I do too.
I think Superman the movie...
it shouldn't look pasted on, but you're right.
Yeah. I think Superman the movie has too big of an S.
That's also in the opening credits.
And I like the S in... yes, it is.
That looks so good.
It does.
I mean, obviously they're on wires, but it looks really good.
It doesn't look bad. No.
That's an ambitious shot.
Yeah, it is. And it's fluid.
Yeah.
It's not jerky like you might think it would be on wires.
Yeah, his hair doesn't look right now, but... Wait, why do you know that?
He might have just said it.
And we were talking over it. Okay.
I'm not sure, but it might be.
I don't remember him saying that, but...
Lois Lane is where the glasses thing breaks down. That is the problem with the secret identity just being glasses.
She just spends too much time with him.
Yeah. And up close.
It wouldn't be enough to just comb your hair different.
Yeah.
And take your glasses off.
Yeah. The explanation works for everyone else, and it doesn't work for the people he works with as much.
Okay, so...
I guess Jimmy Olsen, too.
Watching this again, I'm going to slightly argue with people that say he's giving the exact same performance. It's not... It's subtly different, and I can see the argument that it's too subtly different, but I mean, he's doing the stalwart, I'm the hero...
He's playing up.
Yeah.
Which is how I like my Superman. Superman is a character that Clark Kent plays. Clark Kent is not perfect, but he plays someone who is. That's the frustrating thing about being Superman.
Yeah, and if he doesn't do...
I would not open this window. I would just keep it. I would just leave him there. I would go back to my book.
So at the risk of saying John Byrne again, is John Byrne also the first time we do this shot or this scene?
Well, yes, because up until this point he's not a rich businessman.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have that.
And he lost his hair when they were kids.
We do this over and over and over again in Superman Origins. Even Landis did it.
Yeah. And the animated series did it.
And And I love it. I need the scene in my Superman origin. It's important.
I think Birthright does it.
I think it does.
I've already forgotten most of Birthright.
Well, me too, because it was boring. He should wear turtlenecks. The turtleneck thing does look good. It's much better than his Blue's Clues shirt, which he should never wear again.
Turtlenecks with Bruce Wayne.
No, it's not weird. I do too.
Is that just because of '89, or does he? No, he wears turtlenecks in the comics.
He does, but I for me that starts with '89, and I had an action figure where he also had that, and yeah, I always think about that.
Turtlenecks are out, right? Like I can't tell you the last time I saw turtlenecks.
I want to start wearing them again though.
No, do you? I don't like turtlenecks. I don't like how they feel. Like it's too restrictive. I don't like it.
Yeah, I always liked them, and people,
it's not like a look thing. It's
people
like
on the channel have recently told me that I should be wearing black turtlenecks because I have a Batcave, and I like that logic, and I kind of want to try it.
Sure, that makes sense.
And they also have wonderful, antagonistic chemistry. And put out that cigar. All you gotta do is look up. It's great. It's great. Now, he's taking a risk by saying that, because that's a callback to the exchange that he had with Clark earlier.
But so was the thing he said to Lois about rules.
Actually, that's true. Well, actually, it wasn't an exchange they had. It was a thing he said. Was it to Lois? Who was he talking to? Was it to the both of them when he said that I like everybody having to look up at me? Was he in the room when I think he was. Okay. But anyway, it is a callback to a conversation that he had when he was Clark.
That...
And then this is all George Reeves stuff.
The way she tilted her head and looked up when she said, "Are you jealous?" Every woman I've ever met in my life has done that. Not necessarily to that delivery, but yeah, that like walking and like looking back as you walk away as you're being like playfully smug. Every woman I've ever met does that.
Is that one of those like men just cannot get away with that kinds of?
I've seen men do it. I think I've done it, but it's
different.
It's playing. You're doing the girl thing. I think is what it comes off as. It's not like a natural thing. But maybe it's not when women do it either. Like maybe it's always an intentionally forced, like played up, like I'm being overly dramatic.
On DC Universe, we didn't get to see the closing credits. They just didn't give them to us.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Maybe the pilot just didn't have them, but I'm pretty sure it did.
And now the connection was lost.
Well, yeah, that's because I closed it out.
I know.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so I know we talked over it. It holds up okay.
It does hold up okay. It is long. It should have been an hour pilot.
Yeah.
Or maybe just an hour and a half pilot, but I don't think anything does that. Hour and a half, what would that be?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen an hour and a half pilot, but...
Well, no, you wouldn't. Because, the only way... I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that could happen. I was going to say
like if you... 60-minute pilot, right? 65 minutes? Like in actual runtime. Because that's a 2-hour pilot, but it's an hour and a half. If it was an hour and a half pilot...
If you had like a half-hour show... And you made 2, it would be a 45-minute pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was going to ask you this earlier. Do you think this is a show that, even being something of a drama, could have gotten away with a half-an-hour format?
Yes,
I think so too.
I think certain episodes. It's been a couple of years since I went back to the show, but I think it would have benefited. I think their pacing a lot of times feels stretched.
So do I.
Yeah, no, it could have been a half-an-hour show.
And definitely for this pilot, like I said, I do appreciate some of the downtime, but like they know they don't have enough of a story to stretch for that long.
And they also every episode.
Yeah, but that pilot in particular feels like it's trying not to do too much in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the real estate they have, they could have gotten farther. They could have had Superman halfway in between or in the middle. Like they didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does work to have him show up right at the end, but
yeah,
it should have been an hour long.
Yeah, it should have been an hour long.
But anyway, well, once again, thanks a lot for listening, folks, and we'll see you again with another commentary down the road. And now I'm in a Superman mood, and I just want to watch and read Superman stuff. So, yeah. So thanks to David for requesting this and giving us an excuse to finally get around to it. Yeah, better than the Birds of Prey pilot. I'm going to say that.
Yeah,
or at least holds up better than that did.
And that probably could have benefited from being a 2-hour pilot.
Yeah, it's actually kind of too short, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you again next time. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Later, folks.